Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Painter Growth Podcast. My name is Jesse Tarrant. I'm the head coach at Painter Growth, and we got Coach Gavin with us today. We're going to be cranking out another episode of Brushbusters, one of the favorites.
It's been a while for me.
Me too. You know, it's we have so many coaches on our team now, and they're all we've really leveled up our coaching team. That we've had so many other coaches come in and do these. So, man, it's good to be here with you.
Likewise, looking forward to it.
I feel like these conversations for us are also really fun because there's a lot happening within Painter Growth and the ecosystem right now that for you and I to just chat and banter and go back and forth on these things is it's actually a big highlight of my week and what we do here.
Yeah, 100%, man. I got a burning question though here, man.
Yeah.
What's with the Christmas sweater? There's a lot, you're jumping the gun here a little bit, dude.
Okay, we're recording this on November 12th. You know, I just had my second baby about 10 days ago, so I got 2 kids now. But my son, he watches this show, and there's a Christmas episode, and he is like obsessed with Santa now. He's 2.5. And so when I wear this, he always looks at it and he gets so happy. So, you know, if I could bring a little bit more joy to him and a little bit more joy to their listeners, saying Santa, this sweater, Santa's slaying it 365 days of the year. It's not just one day of the year, Gavin. It's every day of the year we're slaying it.
Yeah. He's busy in the background. I get it.
It's so good. But well, I'm just wondering. I was actually going to ping you before this. I was wondering where your sweater is actually.
I have one ugly Christmas sweater. It has a llama on it. His name is Larry, and I wear it once a year.
Yeah,
and it's an indicator that it's going to be a good night. It's going to be a good time.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing on that. Hopefully, we record another Brushbusters on that day.
Christmas.
The other thing I like to do on these episodes is just chat about things that I think are super interesting to me. Sometimes people agree. Most of the time, you know, it's up in the air. But sometimes people agree. But I'm currently I'm 20. Let me check right now. I'm 25 hours into a 72-hour fast, and I think the first 24 hours is the worst. You know, so I feel like I've bridged that gap, and now it's just when I normally like the mornings, you know, sometimes lunch, that's kind of debatable, and then obviously dinner, you get those hunger pains, but then it subsides after a while. But I haven't done one. I looked at the app because I use this app called Zero. If anybody's interested in fasting, it's a phenomenal app that it's basically a timer, but it's specific for fasting. And I logged in, and I just been doing a lot of reading and research, and now that I've stabilized the living situation instead of traveling all over the world, I'm getting way more back into like the biohacking optimization and everything. And I hadn't done a fast on the app in 700 days. But the last one that I did some 700 days ago I did a 5-day fast.
Whoa.
And I remember, I don't think I've done one since then because it was so intense and whatnot. But I used to, in 2018, I started doing a 48-hour fast once a month, and then kind of fell off that and doing some longer ones. But I got my Whoop. So I got Whoop. Anybody that knows Whoop, you can see it on the screen here. But I bought that initially in 2018. I had 5 years of tracking data. Then when my first son was born and whatnot, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to take a break from all this. So I got off it for 2 years, but I just felt myself not waking. I was consistently waking up tired and feeling groggy. And so I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm going to get my Whoop back to see if the data is actually confirming how I'm feeling. And it was really interesting. I got it back 28 days ago now. And the recovery scores, no matter what I was doing, I was just consistently in the yellow. And I was like, what is going on? And it was confirming everything that I was feeling. And so the thing that I love about the Whoop is it makes you pay so much attention to the little details of performance to then see your recovery. So a couple things that I immediately noticed was I started cutting out rice, because we eat rice 5 days a week or something like that, white rice with dinners and whatnot. And that's actually been one of the biggest game changers to not feeling like crap for me. Which kind of blew my mind. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look at everything. You know, then really started being diligent with blue blockers at night. and wearing those to, if we have the TV on or watching sports, to not let the blue light hit your eyes kind of past 6 or 7 p.m. That's made a huge tangible difference, just being more diligent.
I should get back on that.
I highly recommend blue blockers, guys. They're like orange or red glasses at night. And then being more diligent with meditation before bed, right? So I consistently meditate in the morning, but before bed is kind of, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But what I find is, because you take on so much stimulus in the day, it actually gives yourself in your brain time to download what occurred in the day before you put your head on the pillow. Because I don't know about you, but I realize that if I don't do that, my sleep at night, I'm just subconsciously working so hard to solve all the problems that I was faced in the day, and I don't actually get rest. And then when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I've been working all night, and it's so detrimental to how I feel in the day and waking up. So there's a few other things that I've been doing as well. I'll share a couple more. Was a nasal strip. So I started putting that on my nose, and I'm breathing considerably better, and then taping my mouth shut to sleep.
I've heard of mouth taping. Like, what is the benefit? What does it do?
So there's a really good book out there. I think it's called Breathe by James Nestor. Does that sound familiar? I have to look it up. Breathe, but they did the studies around mouth breathing versus nasal breathing. Mouth breathing is basically the equivalent of eating, fast food or McDonald's for your body. And when you're mouth breathing, so if you're snoring, you're mouth breathing, right? And when you're snoring, it's basically blocking your airways to get the oxygen to your brain. And so when they did a study that they just did mouth breathing, and in 10 days, these guys developed like literally sleep apnea because of mouth breathing, and they were snoring, and their sleep was just an absolute mess. But they quickly reversed it by doing mouth breathing, or by doing nasal breathing, sorry. And with the nasal breathing, your nose has an extra filter, right? Filter for the oxygen and whatnot. And when you clear those passageways, way more oxygen gets to your brain, and it's considerably better for your body, and you feel way better. So those are a few. Yeah, we don't have to go too deep into that today, but those are a few things that I've been doing that I just think are super interesting. And the thing that really got me back onto it was getting my Whoop back, looking at the data, and then being able to measure and saying, okay, the nasal strip did this, or mouth taping did this to my recovery last night, or not eating rice did this, or fasting, created this in my body. It's been fun. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
I get really nerdy about this.
Yeah, I had a Whoop for a while too, and I didn't get into mouth taping or anything like that, but one of the core purposes I got was to track my sleep, right, and recovery and everything.
Yep.
But what really stood out to me was the effects of alcohol.
Yes.
Like how it just destroys your recovery and sleep. Even like a couple drinks, like not getting like drunk, absolutely slammed, like 2 drinks, and it just how it actually impacts the quality of your sleep. That really stood out to me. And as I get older and older, you feel it more, right? Like you can kind of brush it off when you're younger. Your body doesn't need a high level of recovery, or it just recovers better naturally, right? But as you get older, the impact of it is just way more significant.
But yeah, it's interesting you say that, because anytime I have 2 or more drinks, it's basically been almost impossible to not have a red recovery, which blew my mind. It's like, oh, it's just a couple drinks, I feel fine. But like, what is that actually doing? And I was reading something yesterday, and we talk a lot about within the painter growth community, and a lot of the stuff I like to bring to the mastermind and whatnot is thinking in terms of energies and frequencies, and the meditation and mindset stuff. When I was reading something yesterday, it's just around alcohol, and everyone knows it's a natural depressant, and ultimately that means is that your vibration or your frequency is just dropping, right? And it's such a slippery slope. I remember even when I was living in Mexico last year, just having, a beer or 2 or a margarita or 2, it's just so easy, but then that compounds so quickly over time. And again, now that when I'm wearing the Whoop, I'm so much more diligent, because I know if I have that drink, I'm going to be pissed in the morning when I see that recovery score, right? So it kind of gamifies it in a way too.
Yeah, 100% does. And I've been thinking about hopping back on my Whoop as well.
Come join my community. If anybody else wants to, great community on Whoop. It's so fun to see it on there. But anyways, okay, that's a little segue into
personal performance.
That's the personal performance side of things, nerding out on some things, but let's get into some letters from the listeners here. So we have this letter from Alex from Winnipeg. So, Brushbusters, I'm drowning in fake leads. People ask hundreds of questions, book quotes, and then vanish. It's killing my time and motivation. I want to filter out the tire kickers, but I also don't want to scare off legit customers. What is the best way to qualify people before I spend hours chasing ghosts? That's Alex from Winnipeg. So thank you, Alex, for the letter. And I think that it's a great question. Do you want to kick us off, Gavin?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing with marketing. There's two main problems you can have. You're not getting enough leads, or you have a ton of leads and they're low quality. Well, some of them are low quality, and buried in those low quality ones are the great clients. And it's like, how do you identify those people so you can spend the time with them and mitigate the amount of time that you spend with tire kickers? Two things that come to mind. One is qualify them with a qualifying call. We call it the lights out setup call. So that way you're not, driving out to their home, getting no-showed on site. There's nothing worse than showing up to a quote and just getting no-showed. Like, it's just complete waste of your time. And it just shows that, they were not qualified buyers at all. So implementing a form of setup call where you are just getting a sense of like, how serious are they? At what stage of the project are they? And are they actually ready to commit some time to this? Because what's going to happen when you do that is, if you're like, hey, I have a process for this. This is my process. It's going to take some time, and I need you and your partner, wife, husband, whoever else is going to be involved there, so we can all get aligned. If they're not willing to do that, immediately it's just like, sorry, I'm not going to go, because you're obviously not taking it seriously. Those are tire kickers, right? I mean, we can kind of revisit the setup call in more detail here in a second. But another factor here that comes to my mind is, if you're getting a high percentage of low quality leads from your marketing, where are those leads coming from? And this is a tracking thing, right? Like, tracking where your leads come from. So if you're using a CRM like Drip Jobs or Jobber, they do a great job of this. You just have to, actually input that information. And if you're finding that majority of your low quality leads are coming from one lead source, either optimize that lead source or eliminate it and reinvest and double down in the lead sources that are generating higher quality leads.
I love it. I think the second part of how you answer that is just getting to the root of the issue here, right? The root of the issue is that if your lead source is just, you're spending money to get those leads,
Totally.
right? In some capacity. So if they're that low quality that you can't even get a hold of them, lights out setup call or doing that call is if you can even get a hold of them, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
There's like a number of leads that you spend so much time trying to do it. So like Gavin said, really look at your lead source and see if that makes sense. The other thing you can do on that too is, like, if you don't have a VA, you can have a VA that handles at least getting that first meeting booked, taking care of the logistics on it, and then from there you can call them and do the lights out setup call. And the reason why we say that, for you to do the lights out setup call, or the estimator to do the lights out setup call, is because it builds that relationship, and it's actually the very first step in setting yourself up to win at that estimate. Because if you don't spend that 5 to 10 minutes to do a proper call to set up that estimate appropriately, so that, like Gavin said, all decision makers there, you understand the scope, you understand their needs, you've already conditionally closed them before you even arrive to the estimate, in my opinion, you're just wasting your time when to do that estimate, right? Because if they're not bought in at that point, then you're already so far behind the ball by the time you get there. So just to recap, look at the lead source, see if it actually makes sense to keep running those leads, or find out which ones actually produce the people that don't ghost. You can have somebody hire a VA to handle that first part, which is just booking appointments in your calendar that's available to you, and then make sure you are the estimators doing the lights out setup call to set yourself up to actually win at those estimates. Anything else?
No, and then I just continuing to track, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
So like lead volume is one measure for this marketing, but then it's like, what is your closing rate by channel?
Yep.
Right? And then what is your average job size by channel?
Yep.
Because, getting 1,000 leads from Facebook, for example, cool. Service level sounds awesome. But if 995 of those leads are just garbage and they're not actually looking for painting, you're wasting a ton of time, qualifying them, sorting them, like that type of thing. This is obviously an extreme example, but right, of versus if there's a channel that gave you fewer really, really high quality leads where all, a much higher percentage of those turn into estimates and book jobs, how can you double down on that?
I think that's actually one of the biggest things in marketing is that not only do you, like, if you have a lead source that is just super low quality, like, Angie leads or something like that, where you have to work through such a significant amount of volume of leads, but there's not, maybe there's a few diamonds in there. Sure. There's always diamonds in the rough.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the work that is required, whether it's a VA, your team, the systems, you in there to sort through those leads. And then also in your databases, like you said, filled with, 99% of just crap that is not, moving the needle at all. It actually creates more work, more headaches. And it's just a terrible, terrible thing to have to deal with all around. Right.
Yeah. And this is where a lot of online lead, I go quote, agencies, prey on is that, oh, we'll get you 30 leads a week and it's going to be awesome. But they're just 30 leads a week. I don't want 30 leads a week. I want 30 qualified leads a week. It's a very, very different thing. And they know a lot of people don't know the difference. They just see here leads 30. Cool. That's what I need. Versus,
well, and if you're working with, if you are working with an agency, please make sure they have ran a painting company in the past.
Yeah. Or specialized in a niche.
Right. Yeah. Like they have to know that, because if you're working with an agency and they have no context of the industry and they're, oh yeah, of course I can generate leads and whatnot, and this, but they are missing everything downstream, it's just going to clog your system.
Yeah. And also they're actually asking questions to help you target, right? Because if you're trying to run a premium brand, charging really high prices, and you want to have like a premium finish to your ads and attract the right buyers, but they don't get that. They're used to marketing, chuck in the truck business who's just desperate for any work. Very, very different vibe.
Yep.
Right. And if they're taking that vibe and applying it to your business, you're going to get the wrong type of leads.
Yep. All right. Let's wrap there. You want to do really good question there. Do you want to do the next letter?
I'll get the next letter from Denise from Seattle. Hey guys, my painting business is pure chaos. Verbal promises, last minute changes, nothing's written down. It's kind of worked so far, but now mistakes are starting to stack up and I'm losing sleep. I know I need systems and structure, but I have no clue where to start. I'm sure a lot of listeners can feel that one for sure. I mean, everyone's kind of been in that position. Jesse, where would you start?
Yeah, I think that, what you've done to this point to get your business to where you're at, Denise, it sounds like you've done what you've needed to do to get to this point, which is great. Right. And ultimately, one of my favorite quotes is, you're only as good as what you write down. Right. Yeah. We live in an era that it makes this process considerably faster and easier than it's ever been in the past. Right. I remember when I started my second painting company, we wrote like a 550 page playbook with every process, with every detail. Probably more an overkill for a painting company, but we were planning on franchising and all the good stuff. That took like months and years to do. If I was going to start another painting company from scratch today and leveraging all the paint and grow systems in AI and whatnot, I think I could probably do the equivalent in 1 week and make it better.
Yep.
Right. So now if you're in the place of like, it's just pure chaos and whatnot right now, what is the number one thing that is causing the chaos? So is it production issues? Is it marketing? Is it sales, financials, whatever it is? Most likely it's probably production. That'd be my guess, Denise, is that production is kind of causing you a number of things that are causing chaos. So the first thing I would say is, do you have an SOP as soon as a crew arrives on site, all the way from the start to the complete of the job, in every single step that has to occur, so that the experience and the job is a 13 out of 10. If you don't have that, that's your number one starting point. And the fastest hack to do this is my favorite thing now is you can do this in a couple different ways. If you're using Plod, a lot of listeners out there are now using Plod, where they have that little recording device for their estimates, and it's really great to actually use it in other use cases. So you can use a Plod, or you can just open up the ChatGPT app on your phone and you click voice memo and just start brain dumping out what does the perfect experience from the start of the job to the end of the job look like. In a dream world, you wave a magic wand, what does it look like? Just get it all out of your head. And then what you're going to do is ask the AI to then put that into a proper SOP and help you organize all of your thoughts from start to finish. And if you actually draft up a template and say, okay, well, I'm going to start with, here's what a template looks like for the SOPs from my company, start with that. Then you go and brain dump all of that. And then what you can do, if it's linked on your account, you then go back to your computer and you have all those rough notes, and then you say, okay, now here's the template, put all that information into this template that I've created, and boom, you already have an SOP. And something that maybe would have taken you 8 hours or 10 hours to sit down and do before, you can now do in less than 10 minutes. And I think that that is probably the ultimate hack that I'd love to share with people. And I do it all the time for Pain and Growth now. Like the other thing I like to do too is anytime if let's say you get off site and you're like super frustrated, instead of calling somebody or your friend or even another painting company owner, if you have that, the support network, is open up that voice memo and just vent. Just vent and say, these are all my frustrations. Once you get all that venting out, then just flip it and say, okay, in a dream world, this is actually what would happen. And you take every frustration and you turn it into an SOP for your business. What do you got, Gavin?
Yeah, I mean, in the age of AI, building systems can be done very quickly. Like that, what you just described is a literally like a business hack compared to, I mean, even when I started, Shack Shine, wasn't that long ago. I guess it was 8 years ago now, 9 years ago. Like that was all made by hand, right? We had to think through and create every single aspect of that. Now you can do it while you're driving, right? It's just recording your voice. So that's an element of this. And like the place where to start, let's just kind of focus on that for a little bit here. Like, where do you start? There's a million problems, right? So first of all, just do a brain dump. You can either just write this down on a list or help AI just do this brain dump for you of like, list out all of these problems, all of these fires, right? And first of all, you want to get really clear on what is a side effect of a missing system, i.e. a fire, and what is the core thing that's causing it. And then what's causing the most of them, right? Focus on that. This is Jesse kind of, hinted at. A lot of these typically come from the production side of things because there's a lot of humans involved in the production side of these businesses, right? And if humans don't have systems, they tend to add chaos. And just go one by one, right? If you're unsure of what systems could be, ask your team, right? You don't have to have all the answers. You can ask them like, hey guys, feeling like this is very chaotic. How can we create this system? Do you have any, like, what works well for you? What would make your life easier? Throw that into ChatGPT and have it, feed it that information. But ultimately it's just, document and figure out what's causing the most headaches and start there.
Yeah. Now one hack that we can share with people is if you can, there's something called being in flow. It's like being in the zone, right? And if we take this to, the nth degree and nth level, so the average knowledge worker, which means somebody that's working, in front of their computer, which as a business owner, that is basically what, you're becoming, gets about 46 hours of actual real productivity done in a month, like 2.3 hours a day, give or take. Now, when you're in flow, you're actually about 500 times more effective than you are when you're not in flow. So in theory, if you could generate 11 hours of flow in one day, you could get the same amount done in 1 month that you did in a day if you set this up. So Here's what I recommend you do. If you really want to just get this done and sit down, is you block off one day and you say, this is the one day, and I'm going to get all of this out of my head, every system that I could imagine in my business. So I'm going to start with marketing, then I'm going to go into sales, go into production, financials, and leadership. In your first block, you wake up at 4:50 in the morning, and you do your first flow block from 5 to 8 a.m. Okay? And now what that flow block looks like, you have to operate in a flow cycle. And the first stage of it is the struggle phase. So when you start anything 15, 20 minutes, it's going to be a bit of a struggle, right? Then you take a 5-minute reset where you close your eyes, you take a breath, you meditate. You just cannot distract yourself. You cannot open up Slack, WhatsApp, your phone, anything, because if you do, you restart over in the struggle phase. That's why most professionals live their entire life in the struggle phase. They never actually get into flow. So 15 minutes, you set a timer, then you take a 5-minute reset, then you go into your flow block, and you're basically can flow for the next 2.5 hours, give or take, in this case, in the one day. This is the extreme example, okay? And you can do this on less, but I'm saying if you want to do 1 month of work in a single day, here's how you can do it. So that 5 to 8 a.m. is your first flow block. Then you take 8 to 9 a.m. or you do an active recovery. So still, you're not allowed to get distracted. If you get distracted, screws everything up. And active recovery does not mean scrolling on social media, watching TV, anything like that. That'll actually drain you. And so you have to do something like go for a walk. You can eat a bite of food. You can do foam rolling. You can do a workout, meditate, whatever you want to do in that hour. Then from 9 to 12, you do another 3-hour block. Okay, so you're just working through. If you get done all your marketing, then you move on to your sales. If you get done sales, you just keep working through it. Then from 12 to 1, you take another active recovery block, right? You have some lunch, go for a walk, meditate. Then because you're a little bit more sluggish in the afternoon, you're going to go from 1 to 3 p.m. So you're just going to do a little bit of a less block there. So from 1 to 3. And then that's your next flow block following that same start where you go through the struggle, take a reset, and then you flow for the two hours. Then from 3 to 5, you take a 2-hour extended break. Okay, so you're going to have dinner there. You could actually get a workout in, right? That's going to be from 3 to 5. And then from 5 to 8, you do your final flow block of the day. And then from 8 to 9, you do another active recovery, go for a walk, and do what you need to do. But that would be 11 hours of focused work in a day. At 500% productivity, that'd be about 44 hours of flow in a single day. And that's how you can get more done in a single day than you would an entire month if you just focused on one thing. You laid it out, you were completely off your phone. If you need to do it on a Saturday or Sunday, if that works better for you in the beginning, that's totally fine. But most people could actually do this if they sit down and focus on it and just get it done, and they focus on one thing instead of being distracted all day. And I think that the number one thing moving forward for humans in this AI-driven world is going to be your intuition and your level and degree of ability to focus.
100%. Yeah.
That's my hypothesis moving forward. And I'm curious to see how it plays out. And if you are sitting there and like, oh my God, I live my entire world in the struggle phase, which is you try to get into something and then 12 minutes in, you're like, oh God, I gotta check my phone, or I gotta check, see what's going on. You're making your life a living hell basically by just living in the struggle phase and never actually getting into that flow state. Another way for flow state is when you're playing a sport and you're not thinking about it and you're just moving, like you're skiing or you're golfing, you're playing hockey, and you're just in that flow. That's the easiest way to really channel this flow state. But if you can apply that and do this in your work as a business owner, it'll completely change your life. And if you did one of these days a month for the next year in 2026, your life and business will look completely different.
Yeah. Can I come in with a less extreme option?
Yes.
I'm not the most extreme individual.
Listen, I'm 26 hours into this fast right now. I'm like, everything I'm doing right now is just really on the extreme level. So.
All right. So a little bit of a less extreme model is start with 4 hours a week, half a day, 4 or 5 hours a week, right? And do it on the weekends if you have to when your employees aren't working, or you have to set yourself up and give yourself space to work on the business. Call it a CEO block, right? Or like a day would be awesome. A day a week would be awesome, but let's be realistic. Maybe it's a 4-hour, 5-hour block.
Yep.
And if you have employees, if you're doing this during the week, you need to tell them like, hey guys, I am not going to be available until 2:00. Yep. turning my phone on do not disturb. You have me for the next 15 minutes. If you have any questions, ask them now. And there's multiple benefits to this. Is one, once they realize that you're actually not going to answer all their questions, they might actually start figuring some stuff out themselves. Right? Like a nice little side effect of this is tell them, hey, I trust you to make the right decisions. Call me 3 times back to back if someone has fallen off a roof. Like, you kind of like get very clear on like what is a genuine emergency. So this is something that we did very well in all my businesses is what is a perceived emergency? Oh my God, we're running out of paint. 2, what is an actual emergency? Joe fell off a roof and an ambulance is coming, or we lit a house on fire. Actual emergencies. We had a process. This is just something, first SOP to make. If there's an actual emergency, the process is call me. If I don't answer, call me 2 more times and then text me, because what that does is it actually goes through do not disturb. So that's why we had that. And then if I hear that pattern, I know I will drop whatever I'm doing and that's actually worth my attention now. But other than that, if I'm saying I'm unavailable for 4 hours, I'm unavailable for 4 hours. Put your phone on do not disturb. Put it in the other room if you have to, face down, or at the very least face down somewhere else in your office, so it's not a distraction. That gives you space to do it, right? Because as soon as an employee or your phone goes off, boom, flow's gone.
Yep. Well, you just give the greatest hack ever too. It's like you want to eliminate 95% of your problems. Like literally, just put your phone on do not disturb.
Totally.
Right. It was my favorite thing that I did. I think it was in 2015, his first year around a painting company. 2016, I was like, I'm gonna put my phone on do not disturb, and all of a sudden, 95% of my problems went away. Totally. Why? Because painters would call, I wouldn't pick up. Same rule, call twice if it's an emergency, it comes through. And then I call them back and say, hey, I'm in a meeting or whatever the autoresponder is. No matter what I'm doing, if it's a meeting with myself, I just say I'm in a meeting, like I'm doing work, whatever. And then I call them back 2 or 3 hours later. I'm like, hey, what's up there? Oh, no problem. We solved it. Totally. It's amazing how many people actually solve problems, and they're not just, their first gut instinct is like, oh, I got to call Jesse or Gavin, right?
Yeah, like you don't have to be the problem solver. Like empower people on your team to solve those problems. We're going down a different tangent on this conversation now, but because if they sat there for 3 hours and didn't solve the problem and just sat on a paint bucket waiting for you to call them back, you just have the wrong people on your team, right? Like they can Google it, ChatGPT it, make a judgment call, solve the problem. If they don't do that, you should have a look at who's on your team. One last little hack, because you pointed out, like in this day and age, social media, I mean, like all these massive software companies, they pay millions and millions and millions of dollars a year to very, very smart people to get your attention. Like Instagram, Facebook, like that's their value, is getting their attention. So a lot of folks, myself included, the mental muscle of focus is atrophied. It's not strong anymore, right? Because we live in an age of distraction. Something to help you is a little digital timer on your desk. I actually have one right here. You can pick them up on Amazon and start with smaller amounts of time, right? Set it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and slowly build up. And that is your goal, to stay focused. And once it stops, take a bit of a break, right? And then reset it and go for that next block. So start with 20 minutes. Start with 10 minutes if it's really, really, really challenging. And then kind of just set yourself little goals and like slowly increasing. Just like going to the gym, you get stronger and stronger physically. You have to get stronger and stronger mentally. So 4 hours is a very long time for most people. Break it down into 20 or 40-minute sprints.
I love it. I was just on Amazon trying to find that timer. I love it.
It's actually like an egg timer or something, but you spin it.
Honestly, that's awesome. I love that.
Off it goes. So
I like that. You should use the Google one or
a timer on your phone. But, like that works totally fine. Yeah. But
I like
you don't want your phone with you.
You don't want your phone there, right? That's the point. Yeah. Don't use the timer on your phone. That's
all right.
It also looks good.
That was helpful.
All right, let's go to another letter here. So, and thank you for that, Denise from Seattle. So hopefully that helps. And you could.
Great question. Everyone struggles with that.
The other thing too is like growing a business. There's always the balance between order and chaos. And so right now, like you have to create chaos usually when you're starting stuff, right? Or you're getting to the next level. Then you get to a point of like, hey, I can't operate in this chaos anymore. I got to create order. Denise, you'll get to a point, you'll create so much order that to get to the next level, you actually have to go create more chaos. And there's always a balance between order and chaos and where you're at in the company. So I mean, it's the same thing in Painter Growth. Like we were in that chaos bucket, and this year it's all been around order. I can guarantee you in 2026, we're probably gonna do some things that are going to create a little bit more chaos to get to the next level. So where are you on the balance of, do you need more chaos to get to the next level, or do you need more order so that you don't go crazy? All right, this is from Lisa. Hey team, my husband helps with the business part-time. He does some quotes, calls, and a bit of painting, but we're fighting constantly about how things should be run. It's hurting both the business and our marriage. Any advice for keeping the peace when your business partner shares your last name? That's Lisa from Portland, Oregon. Man, this is a really good question. This is a deep question. Do you want to start?
Yeah, it's not an uncommon situation, actually. Like we have a community with 180 owners currently. I mean, we work with 1,000+ business owners. There's a significant percentage of that number that are husband and wife teams, or like father and son teams is also like a super, super common one. Just family and business in general it can be very, very challenging, right? Now, I've never been in business with my significant other. I don't know if I would personally do that. I have had business partners that are very good friends, right? So I'll speak from that experience. And I think something that we did really well from the get-go is set expectations of like, we have a work relationship and we have our personal relationship. We're going to do our best to not cross those boundaries. Even right down to, so, I talk about my business partner, Kit. He's also a coach with us, actually, right? So really, really, really good friends for many, many years now, running business together. We set work agreements. We each had our role in the business, and we knew what each of us was accountable for. And we would hold each other accountable for those, just like an employee, right? So get it in writing, sign a work agreement, have a framework for disagreements. How do you actually work through it versus just yelling at each other, right? Or being passive aggressive. We don't want that. Let's have a healthy discussion. And part of that can be like a reoccurring weekly meeting where that's what you're talking about, is what's frustrating right now. How can we fix it? What are our goals for next week? Right. And I guess there's another point that's kind of going through my mind. I can't remember. It just exited my brain. Talking about distraction. So I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love everything that you're saying on that. I think that my wife and I have tried to start some projects together and whatnot, but one thing that we found, we've never done it successfully, so I can tell you what not to do, but I haven't really cracked the code on it. But something that we found a little bit more meta and whatnot is that there is a universal law of polarity, right? And polarity creates attraction. And there's the divine masculine and there's the divine feminine. And when you harness that in your relationship, you become very attracted to each other when you're in those roles. And that doesn't mean that the man is just purely divine masculine, the woman's just purely divine feminine. There are times in my relationship where I'm much more in the divine feminine, my wife's more in the divine masculine. But we know the different roles and scenarios when we play those parts. And I think so understanding it from that level of when you're operating a business, generally, for the most part, how businesses run today, for the most part, and this is kind of part of the shift, I think that this is part of the shift of the things that I really like to talk about and bring in. It's actually bringing in a lot more the divine feminine into business. The divine masculine is very type A, right? It's very type A. You're very driven, motivated. If you guys are both existing in the divine masculine, naturally there's going to be some contrast, right? Or some battling. And so in your relationship, it's really important to hold the divine masculine and feminine outside of, that business realm. And then, like you said, you have those agreements. And I know that there is one couple that I know, they run a health business, and they say at the end of the day, it's a husband and wife, they ring a bell. They ring a bell to say that work's done.
Right.
And it's just a little bit of a trigger to say work conversation is done. We're now in our, in our marriage and in our relationship. So I would use a cue like that to say, like, hey, end of day. Because otherwise, especially if you live with somebody, it's so easy for it to be 8, 9 p.m. and you bring up a random issue and they're like, I'm trying to like just hang out with the kids or whatever, right? And you're like, I'm not even in the headspace to have this conversation. I mean, it's a good rule of thumb for anything actually, is to, if you have an issue or anything with your partner, to say like, hey, are you in the space to receive this information? Right. My wife and I, we have a weekly meeting on Sundays where we have a structure that we go through. We go over our wins, our learnings, what we're grateful for, and then any issues and challenges, and then planning the week ahead. We do that just for our relationship. If you don't have that for your business, I mean, start with that, and then you can also have that for your relationship. So you're separating those two out, and ultimately, I mean, we're in, Gavin, you and I are good friends. We're in business together. Mike and I were friends before, we became partners in Painter Growth, and I think that how I view it now is just, it's human first, business second. Like I value and look at you, Gavin, as like, you're a human being, and I want to make sure like you're good as a human, and then the business stuff comes after that. And I think the same with Mike. It's like him and I, we do family vacations together, like personally, like with his family and daughters, and I know his wife really well. And it's human first, business second. And I think that it's very easy to reverse that, and to just be like so hard pressed on the human side, especially those relationships, or on the business side, and forget that you guys are humans and have a life. So human first, business, everything else comes after that. And if you show up and say with your partner, and you guys have a vision, and you know where you're going, and you ultimately want the same thing together, you can know that from that standpoint, and having arguments, it can come from a place of love. And that doesn't mean that you guys can't disagree, but it comes from this place of love and understanding that, hey, we're going towards the same vision. Okay, that makes sense, so that I can actually hear you from that lens, not you're right, I'm wrong lens, because that's what's going to cause friction and make things kind of miserable for your entire life. So this is a very, we could go on for another hour or 3 hours about this one topic alone, but those are a few things that I would think about in your case here.
Yeah. Well, one other thing popped into my mind, this is what I forgot earlier, is more of a tactical approach, is separate the communication, right? So this is a rule that we had, is like, if you're talking to me about work stuff, it's on Slack.
Yep.
Like, text me personal stuff.
Yep.
Work stuff is on Slack. Separate those communications. I mean, you can use WhatsApp, like just another messaging platform.
Nice.
Because like there was days like at work, like we're butting heads, right? Like we're having challenging time, difference of opinion, whatever, and then we'd go hang out after work.
Yeah.
Right. And we're just able to like take that conversation. We'll revisit that, and then we're here now, right? So separating communication is huge, because then you can, if you have a thought, send it in the work channel. It's their choice if they go and look at it that evening. Right?
Well, and I think there was, I think this is changing more and more as people work on themselves and work on, their beings and understanding their triggers and understanding. But I think there was a big stigma. Have you ever heard the thing? It's like, don't work with family or friends. Right. I think that was like a big thing that people said, but I think that's shifting a lot. And I think that the most fulfilling experiences that I've had has actually been working with some of my good friends here. And it's ring true within Painter Growth. And some things haven't worked out, and those haven't worked out because I didn't know myself well enough. They didn't know themselves well enough. But as you get older, you understand yourself deeper. If you put in the work and can make that work, again, Gavin, you're one of my closest friends. Kid, a lot of the coaches and the friends. Mike's a really good friend. My brother works for Painter Growth now, and it's actually brought my brother and I closer together in the last decade that we've been, because we have this, because we've both done a lot of work on ourselves to be able to function in this way together. So there's so many positives and upsides of being able to do it. But you have to work on yourself a lot and understand your own triggers, your own, wounds. You understand what makes you tick, what makes the other person's tick. Because if your shadows or if your shadows are then start competing, it's going to turn into an absolute nightmare. And the other thing on that is we also have everything like on contracts and everything, right? So everything that is related to work is like, here's the working contract, like you said, then that makes it less messy from the personal side, because you don't have this thing hanging around of like, what is our working agreement? No, here's our working agreement. Cool, that's over there. Then we can, be friends or family here. Yeah. Okay, man. We're getting to the top of the hour here. I know you got a bunch of calls today.
Yes, sir.
So this was super fun. Thanks for helping me kill another hour on my fast. So I think I'm actually about 20
a little bit of a distraction.
We got how many hours left? You never want to do this, but how many hours is that? Don't do public math. It's about 50 hours left, give or take, in this fast, and I feel better now than I did at hour 12. Hour 12 was not a good hour at dinner time last night, but feeling much better now. So we'll see how it goes. And
thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.